She gets off my dick and spins around to suck while I eat her out. And she must have relaxed too much, because she took a shit on my face. We're doing the deed and the guy felt a fart coming. To his credit, he warned me and tried to cover the noise by singing in a high-pitched voice. For a solid 10 seconds he was farting machine gun style while yodeling loudly. We went upstairs and started going at it. He was behind me and I was facing the window to the backyard. Like 5 minutes in, I see his dog run into the backyard and tear one of my new shoes apart all over the grass. I had her bent over the bed and I was going at her doggy style, and all of a sudden, I see something fly over the bed and roll across the blanket. Without losing a beat, I calmly asked her if that was what I think that is. She says yes, and I just keep going until I finish. Either first or second time I had sex with my ex, we'd literally just finished, as in I hadn't even pulled out of her yet and her mom walks in. We both freeze and I daren't look because her mom was a bit fierce and all I hear is, "Oh, I thought you were just friends," and then the door closed again. My ex bursts out laughing and about 5 minutes later I hear her mom on the phone telling her sister my ex had a broken door handle, so the lock worked about 50% of the time. I snuck over when she was supposed to be alone, but her mom had come home from work early that day. We were not being quiet at all, because we were supposed to be alone. Her mom barged into the room with a steak knife because she thought her daughter was being attacked. So she busts open, and there I am, plowing her daughter. She screams and closes the door, but then opens the door again. So I get dressed, leave, and I go over about a week later. Her mom apologized for not knocking, and all I asked was, "Why'd you open the door twice?" She got red as red could be. It was an ongoing joke for a while after that. Turns out the headboard was exactly the right height to sit on for a BJ. Turns out the headboard wasn't strong enough to hold his weight. They don't call it a headboard for nothing. We were doing the deed and the guy felt a fart coming. To his credit, he warned me and tried to cover the noise by singing in a high-pitched voice. For a solid 10 seconds he was farting machine gun style while yodeling loudly. Still not the worst sex I've had. I was with a girl who liked to wrestle a bit and be held down, except she was a dancer with incredibly powerful legs and I underestimated her, and she accidentally kicked me in the chest and broke one of my ribs. Fatality. Ripped a fart accidentally when I came on her tits. Her face went from pleasure to just a dead stare while holding her tits. I was going down on my GF in high school. I was kneeling next to the bed with her legs hanging off the end. I was fully erect and my cat came from under the bed and licked the tip of my penis. Scared the shit out of me. If you have ever felt a cat's tongue, you'll know how horribly uncomfortable that felt on the tip of my member. As I was going down on my wife, the cat decided it would be a good time to climb and sit on top of my head. I tried to ignore it, but when she looked down she started laughing so hard that it killed the mood for the rest of the night. A cop knocked on the window of the car we were in. He seemed more embarrassed than us. Turns out he'd been dating the girl I was with. Very awkward to say the least. I felt kinda shitty about that. I had gone over to this guy's house wearing my new Vans shoes. I was in high school, so these $50 shoes were my Sunday's best. We went upstairs and started going at it. He was behind me and I was facing the window to the backyard. Like 5 minutes in, I see his dog run into the backyard and tear one of my new shoes apart all over the grass. I thought it was so funny I couldn't even be upset. I miss that dog. This is with my current so. A few months ago we were getting hot and heavy and his absolute best friend called in the middle of it. Without missing a beat, my boo answered the call, still thrusting. His friend was inviting us both out to go eat brunch. Watching this man just smiling down at me trying his absolute best not to make it sound like he's having sex while still very much having IT and talking about his favorite food made me laugh my ass off. Needless to say, we never finished, but fuck, it made my day. No joke, true story. I was seeing this really tiny girl about 13 years ago, shortly after my divorce. It was purely a DS thing as she really liked being spanked, told what to do and so on, and we always finished with rough sex. Anyway, she had lost her eye as an infant due to cancer in her tear duct and she had a glass eye, not very obvious unless you looked closely. Anyway, after one of our sessions, I had her bent over the bed and I was going at her doggy style, and all of a sudden, I see something fly over the bed and roll across the blanket. Without losing a beat, I calmly asked her if that was what I think that is. She says yes and I just keep going until I finish. Afterwards we laughed and cleaned up and she says, "Well, now you can tell people you ducked some girl so hard you knocked her eye out." Good times. We both farted at the exact same time, whilst maintaining eye contact. That's when you know you've found the one. It was a lovely summer evening and my parents were out shopping. After calculating the time I have left, I invited my girlfriend over. We were 16 years old at that time, after we started having sex on the couch. My parents suddenly came back and my naked GF jumped out of the window, straight to the garden. I couldn't find a reasonable explanation for why am I naked, why the window is open and all of the plants are on the floor. I've never been that embarrassed in my life. I was sitting on his face for the first time while he ate me out, and I squirted without even realizing. Instant waterboard. I noticed he made a weird face and thought maybe I was smothering him too much, but instead he made a run for the bathroom to spit it all out. Killed the mood because we were laughing so hard and now I joke to him about how he doesn't swallow. Successfully asserted dominance. This happened to me once but she peed on me instead. Never really wanted to know what urine tastes like, confirmed that I'm not into golden showers, and had to get a few swallows in so I didn't choke. Luckily she noticed pretty quickly. Edit, lots of replies saying it's all pee. She squirted fairly regularly, and this was the only time it tasted, lol, like urine. I'm sure you're all correct, but I do make a distinction. Had to get a few swallows in so I didn't choke. And they say chivalry is dead. She was on her knees, face down on the bed and I ate her out. That fucking fart blast that just ripped right up my nose gave me a good scare. Trying to not wake the house up Lamau at 3:24 a.m. Boyfriend was going down on me. He started doing a Cookie Monster impression while he was down there. Made me laugh so hard I let out a little fart right on his face. Coochie Monster. She passed out while on top of me right before I had to leave so I couldn't get up. And that was the first time I've ever used a sick day at work. What a call to make. Sorry I can't come in today. We did it and she passed out on top of me. Yeah, I'm that good. They pass out after from the pure joy. Should be in tomorrow, unless it happens again. Why did she pass out? Overexertion. Doesn't happen often, but if my husband does foreplay first and then we have rough sex for 10 minutes or more, I generally blank out. He's learned it's best to do doggy style, that way he doesn't have an unconscious person drooling on him. An ex of mine curled and farted right in succession when we were nearly at the point of climax. She was absolutely mortified but I thought it was the funniest thing ever at the time and it honestly just made me feel more comfortable with her. It was, however, very sad how bad she felt about it. She legitimately thought I would never want to touch her again simply for having natural bodily emissions. Honestly, it never fails to depress when I hear the kinds of things that partners think will make me less attracted to them. I farted once while riding and the guy lost it. He told me I was disgusting and he couldn't finish because of how gross it was. Those men are out there and they are the reason we get embarrassed. Background: earlier in the day, I had come across a Reddit thread about funny things to say as you come and someone in there I had read the suggestion of 10 points to Gryffindor. So fast forward to later that night, my wife and I were going at it doggy style and as I feel myself about to climax, I lean forward and whisper the before quote into her ear as I come. She punched me. Several times. I, however, was rolling with laughter the whole time. In middle of it we heard her little brother jokingly yell from the other side of the door, "Don't be ducking," then he ran in. Didn't have any time to hide, so I just stared at him. He yelled "Oh duck" and ran out of the room. Other thing that is more embarrassing than funny, but my GF's mother has the tendency to either not knock at all or knock on the door but no wait at all before rushing in. Most of the time we've managed to hide. Of course she probably always knows what has been happening but at least she hasn't seen me fully naked a whole lot. But once my GF was sitting on top of me and her mom came in. GF managed to grab a blanket but she literally sitting on top of me isn't obvious at all. I'm acknowledging your privacy by knocking but coming in anyway. I smashes the door down immediately. Broke my wife's nose with my forehead, probably when I lost my virginity. Accidentally poked her in the butthole from behind and she turned around, stuck a finger in my face and sternly said no. I laughed and told her it was an accident and we proceeded from there. Also that one time my roommate carded my locked bedroom door during a party. I was balls deep in my FWB doggy style and another friend was standing next to him, slammed the door shut, and then I heard him scream my eyes through the wall. Can't remember if we finished or not. My girlfriend was on top and her Fitbit starts going off. She looks at it and throws her hands up and says yes. I met my step's goal. One of the very first times I ever had sex, I looked out my window to see my neighbor having sex with his girlfriend. He noticed me and nodded "What's up" mid-stroke. Later found out that the girl he was having sex with at that moment was my neighbor from the house that I had just moved away from like 6 months prior. My new neighbor was ducking my old neighbor and I saw them while having sex with my girlfriend. Funny story. We decided that it would be a good idea to try something new, dating for nearly 2 years at this point, and went to have sex in the shower. Foreplay happened, the shower was on. To add to the disaster, I knocked my shampoo by accident, but we shrugged it off. Last thing I knew, he slipped on the shampoo and we both went down. He cracked his pelvis, nothing too dangerous, so he was fine after some months, and I had a cut on my lip because I bit it by accident when we fell. We're not dating anymore, but we're still friends, and we still laugh about it. I remember she had like the loudest queef ever and she was so embarrassed, but I couldn't contain my laughter. Oh my god, I think I was crying of laughter. It wasn't the first time she had queefed during sex, but this time it was so loud, oh boy, I felt so bad afterwards. She became a bit self-conscious because I was her first ever sexual partner. So after the fact, I remember we sat down and talked about how it was natural and there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, she was my wife, so I obviously was supportive. But I'll never forget that loud-ass queef. I'm a little late to the party, but here goes. My good single friend used to live with me and my wife. A girl he went to high school with calls him up one day looking for a bit of action, and a bit later she shows up and they retreat to his room. After a bit she starts screaming really loudly, top of her lungs loud. My wife and I smile. He had warned us that she was a screamer, and we waited for it to be over. 20 minutes go by and she hasn't stopped. My wife and I are getting coats on to go for a walk when the doorbell rings. We answer it and it is our deaf neighbor saying that it felt like someone was screaming and he wasn't sure if he needed to call the cops. We explained with some crude pointing and hand gestures that people were just banging and everything was alright. We also told him we were going for a walk to get away from the noise for a while. We then go for a walk. It's around 10:30 p.m. and in the fall, so we head down to a bar a few blocks away to get out of the chill and have a drink. After 45 minutes we figure everything should have wrapped up by now and we head home. About a block from home we start to hear her, still screaming. Woman had an amazing set of lungs and both of them had some serious endurance. Walked past the house and went for another walk. We were only gone for another half hour and we didn't go too far, but we heard the screaming stop, so we turned around and went home. By the time we got there his friend was leaving and we filled in my friend on how loud she was. We still pick on him to this day. DLDR, friend's hookup was a screamer who was so loud she made our deaf neighbor concerned someone was being tortured. Left the door open when nobody was home. When I was about to come my dog ran into the room barking and tried to jump up onto the bed. Also once was at an Airbnb and the bed was making a lot of noises and mid-fuck the headboard broke off and fell on top of us. When I first started dating my girlfriend I stepped on a bottle of lube spraying it all over her wall and then slipped on it, fell on the floor, then subsequently farted on impact. 2 seconds later the Canada Day fireworks went off in the harbor downtown. True story. I wish I could make that my signature move. One of the first times I ever had sex with my wife, I was trying to jack off on her face and I was using my spit as lube. She said you're getting spit on the face, but I heard spit on my face. So I did and we both died of laughter. Goodness, first time and you're nutting on her face? We've been in an ongoing Nerf war since I want to say February. Recently she pulled a pistol from underneath her pillow and shot me point blank while I came. It's Nerf or nutting. I met a guy off of Craigslist once. I only share this story with my closest friends, so here goes nothing. I was trying to get over someone I loved who had just moved away, so I decided to do this on a whim. The guy from Craigslist literally looked like the spitting image of Paul Rudd. No joke? So I was like, duck, yes, let's do this. We started making out and our clothes started coming off. Things start getting hot and heavy. I grab his hair to pull on it a little, and it ducking comes off. His hair was in my hands. I realized within about 5 seconds of silence that I had just pulled a toupee off of his head. And then I started to cry. Because wow, I can't trust anybody. Not even their hair. I spent the next 10 minutes trying to convince him that I wasn't crying because of his toupee. It partially was and wasn't. Looking back at it now, I think it's hilarious, but at the time I was mortified. My ex-girlfriend would have these really long days at work and come home and say, honey, do the thing. So she'd lay down and put on Netflix or start reading a book and I'd begin playing with her. Nothing too crazy, in fact the tamer the better, usually just fingering and slight nipple play. I always had to contain my laughing because she'd be laying there almost lifeless. No moaning, not really any moving, the occasional right there, but otherwise it would be like she was sleeping, and then out of nowhere she'd finish. I know she'd finish because she'd kinda quietly buck her legs and be as still as possible and slowly arch her back. And then say, okay, I came, thanks babe, and then it was time for bed for her. It was always so funny because in normal sex she was always so full of life and energy and loud and moving a lot and wanting to switch positions. Yes, I know she was just using me to come. I was honestly honored that she'd even want me to help her that way. Lol. My nickname for a while at my husband's job was Trooper, cause the first time we hooked up I was giving him a blowjob and he gave me a heads up that he was about to come. What does my dumbass do? I gave him a thumbs up. He came and then began to laugh. Then he recounted the story to his work buddies and one said, "Ah, she's a real trooper then," and it stuck. Last time we saw this particular co-worker at a bar, he greeted me as trooper. Still, 3 years on, GF and I are both working from home, which has led to midday quickies, our meetings. It's awesome. Little bit of roleplay. I'm a lucky guy. Anyway, last week we're right in the middle and my phone rings. I'm certain it's my boss. So I stop and run out to the living room to get my phone, but I'm still wearing socks and I slip rounding a corner and just completely hit the floor. No grace at all. So I answer the phone and I'm laughing at myself and out of breath from the sex, and my boss is confused as to why I'm so amused at the news of other people getting furloughed. So he probably thinks I'm an asshole. Ended the call, and between the falling, laughing, and subject and length of the call, I was completely flaccid. Yes, we finished. This is my most important meeting and I always meet my deliverables. Was doing it with someone and our friend knocks on the door. "Hey, I have a question." "Not now," insert name air. "Seriously, you guys want to throw around a baseball?" Edit, did not expect my biggest karma account to be about my sex life. Thank you Reddit. Mid-anal, she decides she wants to 69. She gets off my dick and spins around to suck while I eat her out. And she must have relaxed too much, because she took a shit on my face. We're getting married next year. Luckily she found it hilarious, because I was mortified. Dude, you ducked the shit out of her.